started in 1902, 120 years ago. So we've got the first 20 years of production that are officially antique at this point. And the first catalog we're aware of was issued the following year in 1903. I'm sure that they needed to build up some inventory before they started selling glass. And turquoise was actually in that first catalog. However, the price list from 1906 no longer mentioned turquoise. It mentioned other colors that had been made and were offered in that 1903 catalog, but turquoise was no longer being made. So it's another one of these short-term colors. Now, it's also important to realize with those very early pieces made by Cambridge, they didn't come out of Cambridge molds. When they launched the factory, they had to acquire molds from other places to get things rolling. So these extremely early pieces of Cambridge glass production, it's very difficult to know for sure with 100% accuracy or assurance that they were actually made by Cambridge. And that could probably also qualify for turquoise, because turquoise was a fairly popular color that was fairly easy to make, because copper was the colorant and copper is plentiful. So we like to think that, I've got a couple examples here I'll show, were made by Cambridge, and they probably were, but these molds that they started with came from the National Glass Combine. And again, we just can't know for sure, and we never will. So the first, it's a set here, this salt and pepper. The name for the pattern on it is Queen. It's a little floral pattern. It's got the stand. So again, this mold probably is not original to Cambridge, but Cambridge did use the mold and had items in that blank in their catalog. Another one is the nursery rhyme, Little Red Riding Hood Child's Punch Bowl. It's got the little cups to go with it. Now, when you compare these two, there's a difference in the color, isn't there? And that's going to be the case for all of these opaque blue colors. There is a range of color. I think the darker the blue in tone, the less likely there is to be a range of color within that color. Now, we don't have a formula for turquoise because we don't have any batch books that go back to 1902, but actually Henry Helmers has different turquoise formulas for the Cambridge Glass Company that are dated like 1923 and 1931. And that brings up this other thing that some people think that the colors in Cambridge books, that's the only colors that Cambridge was making glass. It's just not the case. The class one I like to talk about is stoplights. Once they had stoplights were invented, they were making stoplights in various colors, and the rolling pin in an opal glass, and on and on. So they were making things turquoise on order for customers that weren't for the dinnerware or the decorative lines that they were selling and that we go crazy about today. So blue-green, a greenish blue, leaning blue is pretty easy to acquire by just using copper oxide in the mix. And of course, all the opaques have fluorspar in them to cloud the glass. And so why there is a range in that color, I'm not sure. Some of the turquoise formulas do have powder blue, and that is a really tricky substance to work with because cobalt is diluted to form powder blue, and just a pinch will color an entire 1,000-pound batch of glass very easily. Well, then, so turquoise was short-term. They did come out with another color in 1922, January, beginning of 1922, called Azurite. And a lot of us really like this color a lot. And it's plentiful. So it must be the buying public liked it a lot too. I collect things that have enamel incrustation and decoration. So they really pop on Azurite. And so it's a color that I like blue to begin with, and then with the enamel on top, it's some pretty beautiful stuff. Now, we don't know when these opaques ended production for sure, but certainly by 1930. So these opaques that we're going to be talking about, the most common ones are colors of the 20s. And again, this azurite must have been a very, very popular color. I've got a vase here, this is the Chelsea pattern. And of course, Chelsea is one of the later near cut patterns. It overlaps enough because I think Chelsea was introduced in 1920 and azurite was introduced in 1922, that you will occasionally find some pieces of Chelsea in these opaque colors. Actually, I've got a pair of them to show you the contrast in color here. You see this one has kind of an opalescence to it. It's an area just above the circle, ring of circles, where it's kind of translucent and you can see through it. Otherwise, the color is fairly similar when you go further down. But again, I think if you've got a deeper blue color like this, some different range of color isn't as obvious as if it's a lighter blue color. Now, again, that powder blue that I mentioned that's used as the colorant in the blue, usually used for colorant in blue, for blue glass, cobalt is so powerful, they dilute it in powder blue, it's only 5% cobalt. It's 95% something else. So a batch of azurite that's like 1,200 pounds, 750 pounds of it being sand, it only took 5 ounces of powder blue, which would be less than 1 ounce of cobalt oxide. It tells you the power. You can imagine when it get in there, it just exploded as far as color. And I would guess that was a problem for the glass makers to get these opaque blues uniform in the depth of the color. I don't think it would be so hard, let's say, with a royal blue. You know, if it's a slight range, you're not going to pick up on it. But if it's an opaque color, just a little bit of difference, we do pick up on that range of color. So moving on then with some pieces in azurite. Again, I like the enamel. So I a piece here that I've had for many years with the dancing lady, green incrustation on it. I have her next in my case, next to friend, another cylinder vase, this one with black incrustation with the dancing ladies. Now, these two, again, there is some difference in color, isn't there? The larger cylinder vase is slightly lighter in color than the short one, but it's not so great that it seems like a big deal as far as that range in color. Now, another piece that I really like a lot in my collection, again, with azurite in the enamel decoration, is this atomizer. And the encrusting black enamel was done at Cambridge. This etching is in the Cambridge etching book. It's got, I think, like cattails on the bottom and then trees and then some flying birds, probably ducks or geese in a row. Now this, however, was sold to the perfume company Van Woot. It's not de Vilbus, it's Van Woot that did the fittings and then sold these. But Cambridge did create the glass, and did the encrusting and the enamel work on it. Well, the third color for tonight is Windsor Blue, introduced in July 1937. So that we've got a gap of time here, but it's a very short-term color. And it may have been only 1937 or a little bit of 38. It's a very short-term color. It really only appears to any extent in the seashell line. There are a couple odd pieces that they were playing with in Tally Ho and Mount Vernon, that type of thing, but it's really a color that was used for the seashell line. A couple oddities with it is they made these seashell, that had been like ashtrays, but they could put the candle wells in them. And they didn't do that for Crown Tuscan. So why only in Windsor Blue they did that, I have no idea. But they're kind of cute, having the little well to put your candle in. This one, I think you can see it's got a lot of opalescence to it, and it's got some depth of color otherwise. Now, it sounds like we're going to see a fair number of the nude candlesticks. I've got a pair. They're similar in color, Jeff, to the ones that you saw in the mall in Wisconsin Dells. I got these. They are a pair. They're the same height and they're same color. And I've been told, whether true or not, that because of the variance in height, you know, when they had to attach the nude to the top and the foot, that in the factory, they would pair them based on height. You know, they made an attempt in the factory to pair them based on height. But of course, if you find a solo act out there in one mall and you think it's going to be a perfect match for another one you find at another or on eBay, you might have a problem. One could be a half an inch taller than the other one. But with Windsor Blue, there's also the very big problem of difference in depth of color. So another piece, this I call the snail vase. It's deep in color for Windsor Blue. It's the color I prefer of Windsor Blue. I'm sure there's others of you that like the real light stuff. Everybody's different in what they like. It's not maybe even as deep here on the camera as what it really is, but it's quite a deep color, and certainly deeper in color than this oval seashell bowl. This is a really faint, you know, it's a little bit of blue in milk glass. And I think you can see it side by side, the difference in the color of these Windsor Blue. So to me, this would be a real problem. You know, in the Twin Cities here, Dayton's department stores always stocked Cambridge glass, you know, a premier department store. Incidentally, today, the department store division is part of Macy's, but Dayton's created Target. And the first store is actually about 5 miles north of my house, the original Target store. So the Dayton company is now Target. But at any rate, if you were decorating your home and you wanted an additional piece of this seashell, it would be frustrating, wouldn't it? That the colors are so different. So I tend to think that this difference or spread in color could have been a problem for Cambridge for marketing purposes. That's just conjecture on my part, but there certainly is a range. So some of the pieces have the opalescence, some of the pieces do not. Now, my Flying Lady bowl in Windsor Blue is this color. And Rick, it's the one I got from you. It was in your case all those years ago. But my sticks are a tad darker. And that is a little bit frustrating because if you're going to buy them at the store and you take them home and oh my God, they don't even really match in color. So, but it is what it is. And I'll be interested to see and hear what the rest of you have in these three colors and also range of color within them. So that's all I've got, Julie, unless there's any questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Les. It's always great to hear what you've got to tell us and the history behind some of the colors. And it is interesting to see the side by side and the differences in the color. And again, you can really see it when you held up the seashell bowl and the oval versus the thicker snail. So that was great for you to show us all those pieces. And I do love those perfumes. Those are really wonderful. So with that, let's get on to see all the other beautiful pieces I'm sure we're going to see tonight. So we are going to start with Walter Lee, and on deck, we're going to put Gwinnell and Scott. So Walter, you'll need to unmute yourself and we'll go from there.
No.
Okay, Walter, where are you at?
I'm trying to figure out the phone.
Oh, okay.
Is it unmuted?
You're unmuted. We just can't see you.
Okay. I'm working on it.
You want us to come back to you?
Yes, please do that.
Okay, we'll go to Gwinnell and Scott first. And then we're going to give Walter a little time. So Walter, I'm going to put Christine and then you'll be third.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Gwinnell.
Hello. Starting with the Azurite 1 pound candy dish. It's in the Azurite. Then in the plainware, I've got the cream and sugar. Also in Azurite. And joining in the seashell, I've got the Azurite seashell, a 4-inch. And I switched to Windsor Blue, and there we go. We stay with seashell in the small cigarette box. And that's all I have for Cambridge, but I do have a Imperial made cream and sugar in the Mount Vernon. And they called theirs an antique blue, but it's kind of a turquoise color. Another popular color around the 30s, Cooperative Flint did their aquamarine. And I've got their cream and sugar. Hard to see. Very, very faint in color. It's transparent. It's not an opaque. And at the same time, New Martin, no, not Orangeville, Westmoreland came out with their aquamarine. And looking at the style and the shape of both of them, that triangular look of decagon is kind of popular with all the companies during that time period. And this is a twist in Westmoreland. And that's what we have in the turquoise and Azurite and Windsor Blue.
Well, thank you. And thanks for sharing those other colors, because it is interesting to see what the other companies were doing at the same time. And again, I think it's based on the period of, you know, the aquamarines and those really deep blues were really part of the 20s. And the jewel tones, as I would call them, are all very what we see in the a lot of the Cambridge pieces in those really dark colors. Okay, with that, Christine, we'll have you next. And then I see Walter, you have your camera working, so you're on deck.
So it was really hard for me to decide what to show because, of course, Azurite is one of my absolute favorites. So I have lots of Azurite pieces. So I decided to pick just a few things that I really loved. I cannot, let me see if I can see my camera here so I can tell if I'm putting this up right. Okay. So you can see here's the basket. I have a number of these baskets in multiple different colors, but this is my favorite color of the basket. So, and then maybe someone can answer this. Les, you were talking about the Van Woot. Now this one, I always thought it was a De Vilbiss. Is it not necessarily a De Vilbiss one?
I'd have to look at Margaret's book. It's hard for me to remember all those. I think that one is Van Woot, but I wouldn't swear to it.
That's good to know. I was just curious. And then I also have it's funny, it's really big, but it's called a squat vase. So I think this is really pretty. It's perfect for sitting on the bottom of a shelf. And then I also have, I thought this was kind of neat and unusual. It's of course one of the compartment candies. It does have the gold band overlay on both the lid and the base. And I also thought this was really interesting because you can see that they even did the gold on the inside. Normally you don't even see the gold. And I thought it was really neat that it was a 3-part too, that they would do it in a 3-part for such a small piece. And then this one, I was trying to find it on the Miami Valley website, but they only had it in jade. I'm trying to remember who I even purchased it from, but of course it's the bird feeder one. Would this have been Cambridge or?
Oh yes, they made it in all the opaque colors.
Okay.
I have it in Pomona green.
Okay, I just wondered because it was only listed in jade on the Miami Valley website. So it had me kind of wondering if it was Cambridge or not. And then I have tons of Windsor Blue as well, but this is kind of one of my favorites. You had the other seashell, and this is of course the larger, taller one vase. So
And that'd be kind of medium, wouldn't it, in color?
Yeah, I think it is a medium. Yeah, because I do have, like you have that small, that short one. Mine is really light in color as well, and this is more a medium color. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. So that's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I always adore those little bird cups. I just think they're just such a nice piece. Whoops, cat. We have, everybody's in. It's too hot to go outside tonight. So, okay. So with that, thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. And Walter, are you ready to go?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I only can go on a phone, so I have to turn it around. I hope I can catch it all. You let me know what you say.
Okay. Hold it back just a little bit, please.
Is that any better?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. This is probably, I have about 2 or 3 console sets, and I have a lot of various compotes and whatevers. But the most unusual thing about this set I got probably about, maybe almost 40 years ago, is that it has an azurite foot. The actual base is azurite. I'd never seen that before, and it was drilled, so it must have been for a lamp. And somehow it ended up with this bowl and these pair of candlesticks. And then I have the ram's head bowl and the Doric candlesticks. And then I have over here, I have a tall pair. These candlesticks are kind of different too, because they're actually blown. They're hollow inside. And this is a flange bowl. And then I have, of course, the candy, which seems to be pretty common. And of course, the sweet pea, which is over here. I'm sitting at a table. Candy owns a pocket now. There's the sweet pea back there. I don't know if you can see that.
A little hard to see, but maybe don't shake the camera too much. We can see it then.
Yeah,
We see it through the candlesticks there.
and then there's the the plain pattern sugar. And these are not Cambridge, of course, but these were made by Moser, and I guess that's his take on. I don't know if you can see them, the rabbits.
Yeah. Can you hold the camera back just a little bit more for those, please?
There you go.
Ah, perfect.
That's Moser's take on azurite. This is the plain one, and this is one that's been iridized. And these are originally from the New Martinsville mold. And this I can go to jail on, I guess. I was at a really nice restaurant in Switzerland, and this was on the table, and somehow when I got outside, it was in my pocket. But it's an ashtray, which I took for a personal souvenir. And I liked it because it had the same colors as azurite. A lot darker, but similar. And I guess that's about it. Does Les know anything about these candlesticks that are hollow?
Yeah, I think they're also used as vases.
Yeah.
So they're not that hard to find, and they're in the various opaque colors. But yeah, I mean, they're a candlestick or a vase, I believe.
And how about the base, the azurite base? Did they make lamps in azurite?
Yeah, they did, and that they are pretty cool. They did make them in azurite as well, and they're not very common.
Yeah. Well,
I have a question on the base.
Yes.
Did they come, and this is for the whole crowd, did that base come in different sizes?
There's a whole range of sizes, yes, Mike.
Okay.
The one I have pretty much is the same diameter as the base, as the bottom of the bowl. So it must have been whoever matched it up so it would fit the bowl. But that's about it for me, Julie.
Oh, thank you. And I like how you said you have a souvenir from Switzerland. It's always good to see where other glass is made from around the world. So I can't blame you. It looks like it matches your collection beautifully. But yeah, very interesting on that base that looked like a lamp base. I've not seen it in that particular color. So that's very, very cool. I know Christine's sitting over here with envy as I see her shake her head and Ernst, like, yes, I would like to have that in my collection.
I actually
But-
have one. That's
You
why I'm
do?
shaking my head. I
Okay.
actually have that same one. Mine has a hole in it too. So,
Excellent, excellent. But beautiful pieces. I like the sets, Walter. Those are really, really nice console sets. I like the Doric, and obviously the Pound Candy is a very popular piece, but thank you so much for sharing your collection with us. It's much appreciated.
Hey,
Okay,
Joy,
Yes.
I just have a quick question. Has anybody seen the Azurite base without the hole drilled in it?
Hmm.
The two that I've seen in the past have had the hole drilled in the center, much like Walter's. I was just wondering if they were all made for lamps, or maybe that was kind of a default base that they used for both bowls and lamps.
All the ones I've seen, David, have all had the hole in it. I've never seen one without it either, so.
Okay.
Okay. So next, we are going to go to the checks, and then we'll have Sally and Alan on deck, please.
okay. Okay. So I think this is the first piece of Azurite we ever bought, was this, the bud vase with the ruffled top. And of course, we know they made them in the other colors, and we've got, I think, a primrose and a helio too, and they look nice together. I just love the shape of that vase. The second piece I ever bought in Azurite was this little special article basket, and I had originally bought it at a show many years ago because a friend of ours in our glass club collects baskets, and I decided, no, I'm not parting with it. So she never got this one.
So much for friendship.
Yeah. She's gotten lots of baskets from us since then. And speaking of baskets, so this was the other, we might have bought this at Cambridge a few years ago. This is with the enamel decoration. And I love, Azurite's one of our favorite colors. So just don't have much with decoration, but we've got a few pieces. And the little vase here, and I think at the time we weren't sure if it was McKee Chalane or if it was Azurite, but I believe this is Azurite.
He's right.
Azurite with lotus decoration.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. We've got the vase, the cylinder vase with a gold band on it. Couple of perfumes, which I think we've seen already. One has gold decoration on it, and one is just plain. We have the, I believe this is a puff box. I think this was in Margaret Whitmire's book. Little gold band on it. Let's see, the candy. We don't have a cover for this one, but it's the 3-section with the 2 handles. The raid base. Again, as I said, this one does not have a cover with it. We have a ram's head bowl, but since we've seen that, I won't pick that up. And then this is the mayonnaise set with the Azurite ladle. I just love this. It's so opalescent, and that ladle is just really translucent. And then I think the one piece that we have a few pieces of Windsor, but this is the only one I could put my hands on easily. And this is the seashell candy. And that's really opalescent too, if you can see the top of it. And that's it.
Oh, thank you. Very nice. Question, Les, was most of the gold decoration done by Lotus in the 20s?
If it's just a plain band, gold band, it was almost all Lotus. It was Lotus.
That's what I thought.
But if it's a band, that's with an etching that's encrusted, then it's Cambridge.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And as always, thank you always for participating. I appreciate your commentary and help when we have questions about these things, Les, and certainly to the checks also for always having a few pieces to show us as well. So next we have Sally and Alan, and then we will go to Mike Strebler, please. I
There we
see
go.
there.
Okay.
Alan, are you ready?
I'm ready. I was muted. This is the typical 2-light keyhole candlestick. It's in Windsor Blue. I have a pair of them. I'm only showing one. And interestingly, Les, they match perfectly in color, which I was very shocked at since I did buy them separately.
Yeah, it's very light in color, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so are mine. Yep.
No, I don't want to show this one next.
Yeah.
The candlestick.
Oh,
Sorry. Next piece is the newt stem candlestick with the bulbish and prisms in crystal. And I do have a pair of these. They match perfectly. And I got these about 5 years ago from Charlie Week's collection. And they're in mint condition.
are those forelocks, Alan?
Actually, no, there are only 2. And interestingly that you bring that up, I bought a blue one at the auction a couple of years ago. I think you remember, with the raised top. And I did get the bulbish and the prisms from Lynn. And just recently I bought a second one and didn't realize till I got it that it was 4 locks, not 2 locks like my first one. So a little disappointed. The next piece that I wanted to show you was the seashell comport. And the reason why I switched these is because this, I don't know if you can tell, is much, much darker than all the other Windsor Blue pieces that I have and that I've seen. It has beautiful opalescence through the arms, the tip of the hair, and also at the edging of the seashell. And it almost looks like Azurite, but it is Windsor Blue. And that one, interestingly, I bought 17 years ago at a Heisey Club glass show in Massachusetts, so you never can tell. And last but not least is my Flying Lady Bowl, which is the standard light medium blue. This doesn't have any opalescence, by the way.
Mm.
There you go. That's it for us. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, very interesting question about the 4-lock and the 2-lock. Is there a preference in the 2-lock or the 4-lock for that particular pair of candlesticks? Does anyone know?
I might want to add this. Mike, you have a pair, correct?
Mine are forelocks.
They are 4-locks.
I believe so.
Now, that would be very unusual because Cambridge was not doing 4-locks any longer. They had done away with those, I believe, when Windsor Blue was introduced. So
Well,
I'm
Jack,
not quite sure, but that would be interesting.
well, I can check and come back at a later moment and update you.
Yeah. David, you might know the answer to that.
My candlestick has 4 locks.
So
Well,
you have a
this,
pair of 4-locks too as well. Okay.
But I don't have a pair. My
Ah.
one candlestick has 4 locks.
Well, this sounds like a very interesting discussion that we need to put in the crystal ball. So,
My
Jack,
Windsor Blue are also 2-lock. And I think I agree with Jack. I think most of them are in Windsor Blue. They're somewhat later for the nudes. Most of the nude candelabra, they are 4-lock. So it's really not, it's less common to have the 2-lock, but the Windsor Blue are mostly that way.
interesting. Well, thank you very much to the Cohens for showing their beautiful pieces. And it's always wonderful to see a Flying Lady Bowl. We can never get away from how beautiful that piece is. So thank you for sharing with us. And next, I believe I have Mike. Did I have you on deck?
I'm ready.
Okay, Mike, and then last it'll be Jack and Elaine.
Well, Julie, I didn't know how many people were going to be here tonight, so I brought a bunch of glass. I'll try and get through it quick.
Okay.
First piece was the same one Alan showed. And I guess the reason I wanted to add a comment that I've collected Windsor for a long time. This was a hard piece to come by. Of the pieces of Windsor, this candlestick is pretty tough. So, and then the next thing I got is a compare and contrast. And this is two of the small flower centers. So you can see the difference in the colors of the two. There we go. Now the other comment I have,
Mike, what's your preference?
I'm a light blue guy, Les. I'm a powder blue guy.
Okay, all right.
You know, one thing interesting thing about Alan's nude comport was it was the darker blue, but it's pretty unusual to see any opalescence in that darker blue. So I was impressed with that. And the other thing I want to mention about this piece, in the seashell line, this is seen a lot, but there's also a bigger one. This is a 6-inch flower center, and there's also an 8-inch. And they did not make an 8-inch flower center in Windsor. Why, I don't know. If somebody ever sees one, give me a call. I need it, but I don't believe it exists. These are cool. It takes, again, trying to get a pair of these, unless they were sold together, it's tough to find a pair that matches. I have another one. I just brought one to show, and it's got an optic to it, actually, which is kind of unusual in Windsor. And this is another really hard piece to find. This is the tall vase. I've never seen the short one. If anybody's seen the short one, let me know. I mean, I just, for our knowledge to know, like I said, Cambridge didn't make the large flower center. Maybe they didn't make the small vase like this. And another item like that is the cigarette box. This is a small cigarette box. You see big ones. It's actually got a label on it. You see big ones, but in Windsor, you only see the small cigarette box. And my big hands are kind of keeping us from seeing it. So again, that's small. There is no big. I always like Mary's baskets, and we have one too. Here's a decorated basket. It's got decoration on the handle and on the bottom and on the sides. This is Azurite. And then we move up to the 119. You know, there's a huge jump in size between, there we go, the little one and then the 119. And these are from my wife's basket collection. She does baskets. And then from this one, we take another step up. And we have the next size up, which I think is 118. I can't remember. But this one's also got gold decoration. Unless you say these are all Lotus.
I believe they're both in the Lotus book. I couldn't swear to it, but I think so.
Okay. Okay, there's an end in sight here. So I've got one of the bases too. And I got a bowl that sits on it, and I told him I wasn't gonna buy his bowl unless he got me a base. So here's the base for it. And here's the bowl.
Mm.
It's kind of cool. It's a green dragon, and he's got red eyes. I think the base is a little big for it, but I don't care. It looks good together in the cabinet. And then the last thing is just kind of a wild card I wanted to throw in, because I don't know what color this is. I don't think it is a color, but this is a 3400 cup and saucer. It's it's transparent, but I just thought I'd throw that in. I think they call it experimental or something. So that wasn't too bad. I made it through, Julie.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting to see between your basket sizes that a little bit of different variation in the decoration in, I think, the middle-sized basket, but also I noticed on the very top of the handle, it was decorated as well. So you can really see there was a lot of detail put into this decoration when you look at them.
We have the other ones in, I just grabbed the decorated ones out of the case real quick.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing as always. And that's a very interesting experimental piece.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And now before Jack, though, I had forgotten Clyde. So Clyde, you're up.
Okay, so we have some of the similar things that Walter had, but we have a flower frog and that my mother always kept in it because it was blue. And then, Daddy, you want to show him this? Here.
No.
So this is Clyde's Father's Day present a few days early. So he just got this.
Nice.
She was very excited about it. So that's it. That's all we have.
All right. Well, thank you. And I'm glad you made it out of the garden safe and sound today after all that heat. But it's always wonderful to see you both, and glad you could join us, Clyde. So with that, we're going to move on to Jack, please.
Okay, let's see if I can get this. I wanted to show this because we talked about this a little earlier. Christine had this, and I think this is some interesting story behind this. It's called a seed cup, and this first shows up in the 1903 catalog. And in fact, that's the only time it shows up. And it was available in turquoise and opal. But as Les alluded to, all of a sudden in the 1920s, it shows up on certain opaque colors. No catalog reference, no nothing about that. So we know that Cambridge brought that back out. This one I always thought was turquoise. It very well could be azurite. I think it is turquoise though. When I hold it up against azurite pieces, it looks like it's a little different color, but I don't know. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to make that little comment about the seed cups. And you see around it, you can see how it has the hole in the back and then set on the bird cage. So, okay, that's the only turquoise thing I have. I had a couple of azurite pieces. We don't have a lot of these colors in our collection, so, but this is the 1 pound candy, and this is etched Egypt. And then it has the Nankin green enamel incrustation in it. And it also has it on the lid too, if you can see that. So, but as people have said, I really like the green enamel incrustation on the azurite. It just really shows up nicely. Another azurite thing we have is pair. I think it was Walter was talking. He had a pair of. We talked about these. These are candlestick vases. They are blown. There were 4 different ones that show up in the 1921 catalog, and they are weird. I mean, they are just plain weird. Because if you look down, that hole goes all the way down through the vase. So you could use it, put a candlestick in them or put some flowers, very few, because you see that's about the size of a dime, no bigger. And in this version, this is even a stranger version because even the base is hollow. So the one that Walter showed, and I'm going to put this in front of it. I don't want to tip anything over here, but you can see the difference between them. Well, this doesn't really show up very well. This is a light emerald version, but and it stops right at the base. So it's hollow all the way up and down through there. It has the same little small hole going down in there. But this one has that hollow base, and it's just, I found that pretty strange. So anyway. Okay. People have shown that. I'm going to show just one more thing, and I will show this. So far, I think Les had the pedal top version when this came up. I believe his were petal top, although I couldn't see it. Alan had the one with the Beauboucher, and this is the version with the polished top on it. You can see it has a very flat polished, and that is polished on the top. So it did come in all three versions. This is probably, well, I won't say. So just, this is really cool. And these are very light, by the way. And I also have a seashell comport, I think that Alan showed, and that is by far the darkest Windsor Blue piece that I have. So,
Jack, I thought you were talking about the smaller top. You know, because those candlesticks also come with the smaller.
oh, you were talking about the candle cup.
Yeah,
I don't think. I think all the Windsor Blue ones are all with a larger candle cup, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. I hadn't thought about the one that was polished on top.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I had, Julie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I find it very interesting, the difference in the candle cups, and that we really need to pay attention to a lot of those things. But again, thank you for your knowledge. It's always nice to hear all the research everyone's done on the different varieties of, not varieties, but in the types of glass and how the glass has variations. So very interesting. Is there anyone we missed tonight that has glass to show? If so, can you just unmute yourself and let us know? Okay, I don't hear anybody. So again, I want to thank everyone as always for sharing their glass with us, because it's always so interesting seeing what's out there. And just to comment back on that, those blown glass vases, from my perspective, that is a cleaning nightmare. I don't know why they would leave that bottom blown by any stretch of the imagination, because I can only imagine how I would only use it as a candlestick, because it would be too hard to clean as a vase. So it's very unusual that it is blown in the opaque, but not in your other piece that's very similar to it, Jack. So thank you for sharing that piece with us.
Julie,
So with that,
Julie, a comment on the bird feeder. Again, I think it might be a case, you know, we tend to think of the price, the catalogs, the price lists for the decorative ware. Well, I don't think a bird feeder is a decorative piece of glass. That's a very functional, utilitarian piece of glass, like, you know, the pieces with the mixers and all those types of things.
Mhm.
So my guess is that, you know, they were sold through another route. You know, they were contract purchased from a pet store or a department store for, not a department store, hardware store or something like that. And that's why it's not in the catalogs and price lists that we see for our decorative ware.
I would agree with that, Les, is you don't see it in along with the other decorative ware, but again, it's more of a utilitarian piece. But also birds, people forget also the trends in history when it comes to pets. And pets, birds were very prolific in the late 10s and the early 20s, more so than maybe dogs and cats. They were looked at as a status symbol in some ways, to have birds of some sort in elaborate cages. And so obviously having a decorative piece of glass as a feeder is no surprise to me. But I find it interesting that it came in those particular colors and then was not carried on into other, you know, pieces of glass, maybe in different colors. But again, that kind of is a sign of the period or the times of what the colors and the popularity of what I would call the jewel tone colors or the deeper colors of the 20s, so to speak. So with that,
Julie, before we go, I got a question, and for the crowd and Les in particular. Les, you mentioned that there were pieces that were of Windsor, we're talking Windsor, that were non-seashell. And I've seen the large, like kind of a cocktail shaker thing.
Yeah.
And that blue is so blue it almost doesn't look like Windsor. Is it Windsor? It's Tally Ho, the picture. And then besides that, do we know of other pieces of Windsor that beyond that cocktail shaker and the seashell line?
Well, there's a piece of Windsor, Mount Vernon, in, I think, the Kindle Colors book, or if not on the Miami Valley website, one of the two. And it said it's burnt. Well, it's probably was just a dirty mold when it was made. At least that's what Mr. Bennett used to say when there was that staining on a piece. And then as far as that cocktail shaker, that's one that's been debated forever. Years ago, if you go back 20 years, I think the researchers were saying, oh, that's too powder blue or whatever. It's not Windsor blue. But I think as time has gone by, I think, well, with the range of color, there's a good chance that it was actually Windsor blue. And then that cup and saucer that you have, I have one of those too. You know, that very easily could be essentially the same glass formula as Windsor blue. You know, it's a later production period because it's the 3500 line. But that kind of stuff we'll really never know, probably, and doesn't matter. Probably not.
Yeah, the cup and saucer, I just thought it was cool, so I bought it.
Mike, do you feel the keyhole candlestick is part of the seashell line?
If you look in the literature, it is, David.
Is
But I don't, because the key that 2 light keyhole candlestick is so prevalent in a bunch of different lines. I don't really think it's attributed that just to seashell.
Well, actually, it was actually considered an accessory item. And in fact, that candlestick itself was Cambridge actually called an accessory item to, like you say, a whole bunch of different lines, 3400 line, you know, there's, you go through the catalogs and it shows up in a lot of different places, so.
But technically, it is part of the seashell line as well as other lines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they brought a lot of stuff into that seashell line, a lot of Caprice stuff too, Les. And Crystal that they also called it as part of the seashell line.
Oh, I think that's just crystal shell, Mike, and I don't know that that's Caprice. David could answer that question.
David might be able to answer that question. Those accessory pieces to the Caprice line, we call Caprice typically candelabra type items. Also, as Mike showed, the small cigarette box and the large cigarette box were definitely part of the Caprice line. Obviously, with the dolphin feet and the shell top, they're part of the seashell line as well. So Caprice was one of those lines that was very, very popular. And I believe the keyhole candlesticks were also accessories to the Caprice line when they were made in Moonlight Blue and Crystal. So larger lines like that, they did tend to bring in a few pieces from other lines to incorporate them.
Well, as always, we always have an interesting discussion. So I appreciate everyone's input and obviously how they relate into our different lines, which I think we often forget that we have pieces that cross over to many different lines. So thank you for bringing those points out, guys.
Hey,
And
Julie?
yes.
If I could say to everybody that I hope to see you all at the glass show. And if you do come by Jack and mine's booth, we talk more than we sell glass. So please stop by and talk a whole bunch with us about Cambridge glass.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Here, I thought you were going to give us a commercial and we were going to get a specialty code to come to your booth and get a discount.
Oh, no. Like I said, we talk more than we sell glass.
Let me and Kathy jump in there. Come to our booth.
There you go.
We're there to
Get you
sell.
all in. We'll get all the advertising in here.
There you go.
With that, we do hope that everyone is able to attend the show. If not, I'm going to try to take some video snippets that we can share, maybe post them up and as we do with the Zoom programs, if you want some snippets of convention, we'll try to get some on the website for you so you can get a flavor of what the convention is about, because certainly we know not everyone can attend. We wish everyone could attend, but we know it's just not possible in this day and age. So we do appreciate that you are able to join us virtually. Obviously, the fellowship is the most important thing here, as well as the education, because we all enjoy each other's company. So we're glad always to see everyone every single month. So with that, I'm going to let David tell us about what's on deck for next month and what's coming up in July for our Zoom and Tell.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. Yes, if you run into any of us who are helping coordinate Zoom and Tell, please let us know at convention if you have any recommendations or suggestions or what you like about Zoom and Tell. What maybe there's something that we're not realizing and you feel like there's something we could do to improve the overall experience of Zoom and Tell. So whether it's Julie, Les, Mike, Jack, whoever, please share your ideas with us because the team will be trying to get together during the busy schedule of convention to try to share some ideas about where we're going with Zoom once the color programs have finished. So any suggestions from you will be taken into consideration, and we would like as much input as possible on that. With that being said, and I know Mike has said convention is coming up in a couple of weeks. It should be a wonderful convention. It's going to be wonderful glass available for purchase. So we look forward to seeing as many of you. And I know we've not met everyone who participates in the Zoom and Tell. So please come up to us and just introduce yourself, because many of the people that I see on the Zoom from month to month, I don't believe I've ever had a chance to meet in person. Next month, July, the Zoom is scheduled for Tuesday, July 19th. So as we go through the summer, we're going to be doing Tuesday night Zoom and Tell. So it's July 19th. And the theme will be Primrose and Ivory, two opaque colors made in the 1920s that are similar in shade. One is a little bit darker than the other. So I know Les will give us the details on the differences and the production of those two. And there's many, many wonderful decorated pieces of ivory out there that I'm sure members will be willing to share. And of course, Primrose, one of my favorite opaque colors, is just wonderful, especially the community line pieces. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at convention. And if you can't make it to convention, I at least would like to see you next month in July for Zoom and Tell. Julie, that's all I've got this evening. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, David. Gwinnell, I have to know, is that a Maine Coon you have in your lap?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I had to see him because he's a big boy.
Oh, it's a she.
She's just big bone then.
Yeah. She's got to be in the middle of everything at times.
Yes, I have my crew. As you noticed, one had to make himself part of the Zoom today. But in closing, it's wonderful to see everyone. We, again, love seeing you every single month. I love seeing you every single month. And for those of you that I'll see at convention, please take me aside and say hello, because I don't often, when I'm there, we're often busy, but hey, stop us and say hello and let us know what you'd like to see in the future for Zoom. And in closing, to all of you, happy Father's Day. If you're a father or not, happy Father's Day, and enjoy your weekend. And we look forward to seeing you in July and maybe next week at convention. So have a wonderful evening and be safe and cool out there. It's supposed to be a hot one across the country. So thank you and have a good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Coming from New York, I cannot come this time, but another time I would love to.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you next month then,
I will
Barbara.
be there. I will be there.
Okay, sounds great. Bye now.
Bye.
Is there an airport close by out there?
To Cambridge?
Yeah.
The closest one would be the Columbus Airport or the Akron Airport.
Okay.
Both are
Okay.
close.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Okay, thanks. Bye.
you're welcome. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.